I was a hardcore chatterbox. Yet somehow I married a wife who was basically an NPC. She barely talked. But she was an incredible listener. No matter how much I rambled on and on, she would always reply gently. I'm listening. I've always been listening. I truly believed I had found my perfect soulmate, until her younger brother came back from overseas. The moment I saw the two of them chatting animatedly, acting suspiciously close and looking like they were in some taboo romance, I exploded with rage. I immediately decided to find someone else to be my emotional dumping ground. To my surprise, my wife wasn't happy about it. She snapped. How can you talk to someone else? I'm your one and only emotional dumping ground. Chapter 1. After getting my engagement called off for the 99th time because I talked too much, I finally met the woman of my dreams. She was the famous Willow Liu, the daughter of the Liu family in H City, a woman known for being quiet, emotionally steady, gentle, well-mannered, and highly educated. We met at an auction. By coincidence, I was seated right beside her, and I enthusiastically talked her ear off for half an hour. Throughout the entire time, Willow listened with endless patience and kindness. She even nodded occasionally in response. I thought I had finally found a kindred spirit, so I said, Miss, trust me, you're going to regret spending 8 figures on that jade. The year before last, I spent 50 million on a piece of jade too. I thought I'd found a priceless treasure, but when I got it appraised, it turned out to be worth only 20. And that's not even the worst part. Do you know what I bought the year before that? They said it was painted by Leonardo da Vinci. Finally, Willow's assistant couldn't take it anymore. Sorry, sir. Miss Liu prefers a quieter environment. My voice stopped instantly, and I leaned back awkwardly. As expected, people from powerful families all liked acting mysterious. Nobody could tolerate someone as energetic as me. But at that moment, Willow suddenly frowned slightly. She shot her assistant a disapproving glance. Then she gave me a graceful nod and said with calm elegance, It's all right, I'm listening. Boom. I could practically see fireworks exploding before my eyes. My heartbeat went completely out of control. For once in my life, I was speechless. It wasn't until Willow gently prompted, and then, that I finally snapped back to reality. My ears turned red, and I actually started stammering. Then I spent another 50 million on a painting of shrimp that was supposedly by Leonardo da Vinci. They later told me it was fake. They said the guy who painted the shrimp was actually Michelangelo. Willow froze for a brief moment. Then, to my surprise, she smiled. Her eyes sparkled like stars. A faint dimple appeared at the corner of her lips. When she smiled, her expression was subtle yet dazzling, as though the entire room had brightened. At that moment, I knew I was finished. Completely finished. I was going to get engaged for the 100th time, and I was going to marry Willow Liu. My parents strongly approved. After all, the Liu family had accumulated wealth for generations. Their fortune was beyond estimation, and they were the richest family in H City. A marriage alliance with them would greatly benefit the future of the Wang family. My friends approved too. One of us was a chatterbox. The other was quiet, refined, and well-mannered. We seemed like a match made in heaven. As for me, I approved most of all. I had finally found a soulmate who could tolerate my endless talking. So the two families arranged the engagement. Then came the engagement ceremony. Then the wedding. Everything moved at fast-forward speed. At last, I married Willow. The curse of being dumped 99 times before marriage had finally been broken. But after we got married, I discovered one fatal flaw. Willow was really that quiet. No matter the situation, she rarely said more than 10 words in a single sentence. There was an aloofness about her that made her difficult to approach. Even during our wedding, her speech consisted of only one gentle sentence. Let's take good care of each other. One chatterbox. One woman of few words. The combination was so absurd that even I found it unbelievable. I tried every possible way to get her to talk more. I constantly chatted beside her, hoping to draw out more emotion from her. But every time, all I got in return was her gentle reply, I'm listening. I deliberately caused trouble and even ended up at the police station once. Anyone else would have been furious. Yet Willow simply smiled and said, It's fine. There was even a time when someone maliciously drugged her and she needed my help. With a mischievous grin, I tried to take advantage of the situation and made a few shameless requests. Her face turned bright red, yet she still replied with utmost gentleness. The effects will wear off soon enough. I knew she treated me incredibly well. She was gentle, patient, understanding. She tolerated my endless talking and indulged all my flaws. A woman this wonderful had married me. I shouldn't have been asking for more. And yet, something felt wrong. I just couldn't figure out what it was. Not until Willow's legendary third brother, Makoto, returned from overseas. Chapter 2. Makoto was the Liu family's adopted son. He had been raised in the Liu household since childhood, but when he was 16, he was sent overseas to study. He had been gone for a full 5 years. I had no idea what he looked like. The first time we met was because Makoto got caught in a setup at a bar. Someone had deliberately tricked him, and a fight broke out. Being the loyal guy that I was, I charged over without hesitation and smashed a beer bottle over someone's head. As a result, Makoto and I both ended up in the police station. I called my wife, Willow, and said guiltily, "Honey, I swear I wasn't looking for trouble this time. That guy was being a complete jerk. He set a trap to bully someone." The kid looked desperate, and there was no way I could just stand there and watch. You know I can't tolerate that kind of thing. Last time, when Willow was in the middle of a meeting. Even so, she patiently listened to my story for a full 10 minutes. Finally, even the police officer couldn't take it anymore. "Get to the point." Only then did Willow laugh softly and say calmly, "It's all right. Give me 10 minutes. So I waited. 10 minutes passed. Then another 10. Then another. I waited for a full 30 minutes, but Willow never showed up. Instead, after half an hour, Makoto smiled at me and said, "Bro, your wife's still not here. The person coming to bail me out is. I'll have her get you out too." The door suddenly burst open with a loud bang. The next second, I saw Willow storm in. She looked slightly disheveled, her face dark with anger, but she didn't walk toward me. Instead, she grabbed Makoto's wrist. "Makoto, you've only been back one day, and you've already managed to end up in a police station. You've really grown bold, haven't you? And haven't I told you before, when something like this happens, your first priority is your own safety. Don't be so reckless, sis." Makoto tried to explain, but Willow cut him off immediately. "What? Am I not allowed to criticize you now? I say one sentence and you want to argue back with 10. What exactly have you been learning overseas all these years? Why have you become more and more disobedient?" I counted carefully. Every single sentence she spoke contained more than 10 words. The longest one was nearly 30, and she didn't even give Makoto a chance to respond. She fired off 4 full sentences in a row. The woman who usually spoke as little as possible was suddenly overflowing with emotion. Her normally gentle face was filled with unmistakable anger. So, she could lose her composure. She could get angry. A bucket of icy water seemed to pour over my head. My entire body turned cold. My heart sank straight into an abyss. So her gentleness toward me, her patience, her tolerance, none of it was because I was special. It was simply the result of the impeccable manners engraved into her bones. I couldn't stir her emotions, but Makoto could. Only then did Willow finally notice me standing nearby. A trace of surprise flashed across her eyes. Then she stepped toward me and extended a warm hand. "You're here too? How ridiculous." From the moment she entered, all she had seen was Makoto. She hadn't even realized I was in the room. I looked at her expressionlessly. For the first time ever, I had nothing to say, not a single word. I ignored her outstretched hand completely. Then, without saying anything, I turned and walked out of the police station. Willow froze slightly as she watched my departing figure. Chapter 3. I quickly obtained Makoto's information. I skimmed through it quickly. The more I read, the colder I felt. It was as if a bucket of ice water had been dumped over my head. A dull blade seemed to be tearing through my chest, the pain so sharp it was hard to breathe. It turned out that as early as the year Makoto was sent overseas at 16, his relationship with Willow had already crossed the line. When the Liu family discovered it, they feared the scandal would destroy the family's reputation. So they covered everything up and sent Makoto abroad. They arranged permanent residency for him and ordered him never to return to the country. But a year ago, Makoto claimed he had developed severe depression and could no longer continue living overseas. He had attempted suicide 10 times. 10 times. After he was rescued from his latest attempt, Willow Liu finally knelt before Old Master Liu, the head of the Liu family, and begged him. She endured 66 lashes under the family's disciplinary rules. Her entire back was beaten until it was covered in blood and torn flesh. She was even willing to give up her inheritance rights to the Liu family, all for the chance to bring Makoto back. In the end, Old Master Liu gave in. He said, "Fine, Makoto can come back, but I'll say this one last time. The two of you can never be together. Get married. As long as you marry another man, I'll allow you to bring him home." And so, I became her target. From beginning to end, I was nothing more than a cover, a stepping stone for a woman deeply in love with another man. Every bit of kindness she had shown me had been built upon exploitation. No wonder she could tolerate my endless talking. And the most ridiculous thing of all, I had fallen in love with her. Completely, hopelessly. The cold spread through my entire body. I felt as though I had been locked inside an ice cellar. So when I saw the car waiting outside the police station, I didn't get in. Instead, I turned around. I quickened my pace, desperately trying to escape the suffocating truth. Willow assumed I was simply upset. After all, she had promised to come get me. Instead, she had broken that promise. In the nearly 2 years we'd known each other and the 6 months we'd been married, she had never broken a promise before. So Willow said nothing. She simply followed behind me on foot. By the time I realized she was still trailing me, I had already been walking for more than an hour. The leg I'd injured during the fight was still bleeding. Eventually, the pain became unbearable. I finally stopped. Taking off my shoe, I sat down on the edge of a flower bed beside the road. Willow sat down beside me. She let out a soft sigh. Then she reached over and took my hand. "It's Makoto." Just 3 simple words. That was her explanation for breaking her promise and choosing to bail Makoto out first. Because Makoto was her brother. Or perhaps, because Makoto mattered more to her. I laughed bitterly. "You should go back with Makoto. Don't worry about me. I want to be alone for a while." My words were so few that I hardly sounded like myself. Yet Willow seemed not to notice anything unusual. She merely sighed again. "Your injuries haven't been treated yet." I paused briefly. Then I ignored her and got back to my feet. I continued walking forward. Willow continued following. Then a car suddenly pulled up beside us. The door opened. Makoto jumped out from the back seat and grabbed Willow's arm. "Sis, I'll stay with you." Willow stopped and frowned. "Stop fooling around. Go home." Makoto pouted. "This is all my fault. I shouldn't have put you in a position where you had to choose between the two of us. That's why my brother-in-law is angry. It's my mistake. I'll stay and be punished with you." His tone sounded apologetic, as though he genuinely believed I was using this situation to punish Willow. I had to admit, Makoto was clever. Very clever. He was exceptionally good at blurring the real issue, and even better at provoking people. I wasn't angry because Willow had been forced to choose. I was angry because when she did choose, she didn't choose me, because in Willow's heart, Makoto occupied a place that was more special than mine ever could be. Chapter 4. A trace of mockery flashed through my eyes. I pretended not to hear him and kept walking. Sure enough, Makoto followed along, but before long, he started complaining. "Ouch, my foot hurts too. You two are the ones fighting as a married couple, yet I'm the one suffering. I just spent more than 10 hours on a flight. The moment I landed, I got beaten up and dragged into a police station. Now I have to walk around injured while the two of you play out your little marital drama. My life is so miserable." He blinked pitifully. More than half his weight was hanging off Willow's body. The funny thing was that Makoto only had a tiny scrape on his foot. Meanwhile, a piece of broken glass had sliced a wound nearly 5 centimeters long into my calf. The flesh was torn open and covered in blood. Yet Willow's attention remained fixed on the faint redness around Makoto's ankle. Her brows furrowed. Her voice immediately turned firm. "Stop walking. Get in the car." Makoto shook his head. "No. I said I'd be punished with you. Unless you stop walking too. Sis, it hurts seeing you like this." Willow fell silent. After a moment, she finally sighed. Then she took Makoto's hand and stepped into the car. "All right, I'll listen to you." At last, nobody was following behind me anymore. But the car door remained half open as the vehicle crawled slowly along behind me. Through the dim light, I saw Willow take off Makoto's shoes. Then she opened the trunk and pulled out another pair. She personally helped him put them on. They were a pair of handmade Italian leather shoes, a custom birthday gift Willow had specially ordered for me. Unfortunately, I never even got the chance to wear them. Now they were on Makoto's feet. It felt as though my swollen, fragile heart had been stepped on and crushed into pieces. I stopped for a moment. Then I turned and slipped onto a nearby bike path. The Maybach could no longer follow. And this time, worried that Makoto's feet might hurt if he walked, Willow didn't get out of the car either. By the time I got home, another hour had passed. The light in the entryway was on. A bottle of antiseptic and a roll of gauze sat on the cabinet. "You're back. Take care of your wound." When Willow said that, she was currently treating the slight redness on Makoto's ankle. Makoto had one foot resting directly on her lap. He kept complaining dramatically about the pain. "Sis, blow on it." Willow sighed helplessly and gently blew on his ankle. "What are you, 5 years old?" Suddenly, I laughed. Under the flickering motion sensor light, I changed into my slippers. Then I spoke slowly and clearly. "Willow, let's get divorced." Willow thought I was joking. After all, everyone in the world knew how much I loved her. I'd loved her so much that only 1 month after we started dating, I'd already proposed. I'd loved her so much that when a car accident happened, I threw myself in front of her without hesitation and ended up in the ICU instead. So after hearing my words, Willow merely paused briefly. Then she brushed it off casually. "We have an event tomorrow. Get some rest." She didn't take it seriously at all, which meant she had no idea that I was completely serious. I was treating the divorce as a real divorce. The very first thing I did was notify my parents. Chapter 5. Early the next morning, I was awakened by the commotion downstairs. Standing in the second-floor hallway, I looked down. Makoto was kneeling in the center of the living room. His upper body was bare, his eyes slightly red, his expression stubborn and defiant. In a low growl, he shouted, "I won't marry anyone." Old Master Lu cracked the long whip in his hand against the floor. The sharp sound echoed through the room. Makoto, you are not qualified to negotiate with the Liu family, or with me. Willow's breathing hitched. Grandpa, please don't make things difficult for him. That single sentence completely enraged Old Master Liu. His face darkened. The whip lashed directly across Makoto's back. Crack! The skin split open instantly. Makoto cried out in pain. And just as the second strike was about to fall, Willow suddenly threw herself forward and shielded him. Crack! The second lash landed squarely on Willow's back. Makoto trembled with distress. Sis, does it hurt? I'm sorry. It's all my fault. You got hit because of me. Sis, don't worry. I won't agree to Grandpa's demands. I'll never marry anyone other than you. Old Master Liu's expression changed dramatically. Shut up, he roared. His cane slammed down against Willow's fresh wound. Then, staring at her, he said word by word, Willow, are you really planning to destroy your marriage with George? Willow froze. Then she looked up. Our eyes met. In that instant, something seemed to click in her mind. Her brows slowly drew together. George, come down. Not understanding what was happening, I walked downstairs and stopped beside her. Willow grabbed my hand. Her voice was hoarse and low. Was it you? The question sounded almost intimate, like a whisper between lovers. I stared at her blankly. Before I could respond, Willow continued. This time, you've gone too far. Only then did I finally understand. She thought I had told Old Master Liu about what happened the night before. She thought I was the reason he had shown up first thing in the morning demanding that Makoto get married. The blood drained from my face. It wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about. Before I could finish speaking, Willow suddenly turned toward me and pressed a kiss against my lips. I froze. A flicker of confusion flashed through my eyes. Since the day we started dating, this was the first time Willow had ever kissed me on her own. Why? I got my answer very quickly. After the kiss, she turned her gaze toward Makoto. Her voice remained hoarse. The wife Grandpa chose for you isn't a bad choice. Then she forced a faint smile. Look at me. I'm happy too. As she spoke, the corners of her lips tilted downward slightly. Her eyes were deep and shadowed, filled with endless restraint, and at that moment, I finally understood. She was telling him not to pursue the impossible, not because she wanted to, but because she couldn't bear to see him suffer more lashes for his stubbornness. A cold, mocking smile tugged at my lips. That night, the Liu family hosted a masquerade ball. The masks Willow and I wore had been custom-made. Their designs were distinctive enough that anyone could immediately identify us. But the moment I entered the venue, I noticed a man in the distance wearing a mask strikingly similar to mine. A woman's silk scarf was tied around his wrist. I recognized it instantly. Willow often wore that scarf at important events. There was no doubt about it. The man was Makoto. As we entered the ballroom, Willow lifted her hand, intending to link arms with me. It was the perfect opportunity to show off a loving marriage. I stepped aside and avoided her touch. Willow paused slightly. Her tone grew even more helpless, still angry. The way she spoke was like a dull blade, not fatal. Yet it sank into my chest again and again. The lingering pain forced me to lower my eyes. Willow, I'm not joking. As I spoke, I pulled out a document and handed it to her. This is the divorce agreement I've prepared. Willow was about to take it. Suddenly, a startled shout erupted from somewhere nearby. Young master, are you all right? Willow's expression changed instantly. She turned around in a hurry. I grabbed her wrist. Sign it first. Willow took a deep breath. She snatched the pen and quickly scribbled her name on the document. Then she turned and ran. Because she signed in such a rush, the pen tip scraped across my palm, leaving behind a deep red mark. It hurt, but not nearly as much as the ache in my chest, because from this moment onward, my marriage to Willow was officially over. Chapter 6. I stuffed the crumpled divorce papers into my pocket and walked toward a quiet corner. Before long, it was time for the highlight of the evening, the partner search game. Men and women would have to find their partners among thousands of masked guests. The first couple to find each other would win a highly valuable prize. The moment the lights dimmed, I saw Willow walking toward me. In those deep, dark eyes, there seemed to be endless affection. For a brief, foolish moment, I actually believed that maybe, just maybe, Willow liked me a little. Then Makoto appeared. He was wearing a mask identical to mine. Willow stopped walking. Suddenly, all the lights went out. The entire ship was swallowed by darkness and chaos. Under the faint glow of the moonlight, my gaze froze on two intertwined figures. Willow rose onto her tiptoes and kissed Makoto. Their breaths tangled together. The kiss was tender, lingering, desperate, as though they wanted to fuse each other into their very souls. Nearby, someone said enviously, "That's Willow and her husband, right? They look so in love. Nothing like the rumors." Another person laughed. "Seriously, George looks like he'd tear himself apart for her. He clearly loves her to death." Someone else sighed wistfully. "If I could marry a woman like Willow in my next life, rich, powerful, and completely devoted to me. I'd die happy. Those words stabbed into my chest like knives. Only then did I realize something. When Willow loved someone, it was impossible to hide. She didn't need to fight for it. She didn't need to prove it. Real love never needs proof. In the darkness, Makoto's eyes met mine. A provocative smile appeared on his face. Then he took a small step backward, deliberately revealing the lipstick smeared across his lips. Willow's lipstick. Slowly, he mouthed 3 words. Better luck next time. I responded with a cold smile. Calmly, I removed my mask and walked toward Willow, gently tapping her shoulder. I said, "Willow, did you mistake someone else for me?" A flicker crossed Willow's face. She was about to speak. Then the light suddenly came back on. The crowd surged forward like a tidal wave. I was shoved backward violently. Countless people stepped on my injured foot. Pain drained the color from my face. Yet through the crowd, I saw Willow immediately grab Makoto's hand and pull him away from the chaos. She protected him perfectly. Not a single person managed to touch him. Soon, the first couple to find each other made their way onto the stage. As the spotlight descended, the grand prize of the evening was finally revealed. Cheers erupted throughout the ballroom. Then I saw it. A painting. A painting so familiar that my entire body froze. It was my late brother's final masterpiece. The painting he had poured his entire life into. The painting he completed before taking his own life. It had always been stored in his private studio. So why was it here? I straightened instantly. The crowd buzzed with excitement. That's Master Luis's most famous work. I heard its market value has already surpassed 10 figures. 5 years ago, after completing this painting, Master Luis disappeared completely. Some people say he moved overseas. Others say he's already dead. But tonight, we're honored to have Master Luis himself here to personally present this painting to the winner. The spotlight swept across the crowd, then stopped. On a mask identical to mine. My eyes widened. My brother had been dead for years. How could he suddenly appear? And how could that person possibly be Makoto? He was trying to steal Luis's identity, trying to impersonate him. Under the attention of the entire crowd, Makoto was already walking toward the stage. I lost all control. Pushing through the crowd, I shouted, "He's not." Before I could finish the sentence, a sharp pain exploded at the back of my head. The world spun violently. My limbs went numb. Everything tilted. Then I fell backward, into a familiar embrace, and as darkness closed in, I caught the scent of a familiar perfume, the perfume Willow always wore. Chapter 7. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying in the bedroom of our villa. Willow sat beside the bed, reviewing work documents with a slight frown. I threw off the blanket, overcome with emotion. I didn't even bother putting on my shoes before stepping onto the cold floor and rushing toward the door. The next second, Willow grabbed me and stopped me. "You're running a fever." Frowning, she spoke softly. "Calm down." She pushed me back onto the bed. My face was pale as I said, "Willow, didn't you see it? Makoto is impersonating Luis. He's stealing the identity of my brother, who's been dead for years. That honor belongs to my brother. He can't just take it away. No, I have to expose him." My voice was frantic, but the moment I met Willow's calm gaze, I stopped. In a flash, I suddenly realized something. After my brother died, only one person besides me had ever entered that studio. Willow. I had called it my secret sanctuary. It was there that I told her countless stories about my childhood with my brother. Whenever I got into trouble, my brother was always the one standing in front of me. Whenever I got hurt, he suffered more than I did. Whenever I cried, he was even more worried than our parents. I spent an entire day in that studio telling Willow story after story about him. I thought she understood how important my brother was to me, but she had stolen the painting from that very studio and handed it to Makoto so he could claim an honor that belonged to my brother. It felt as though a massive hole had been torn open in my chest. An icy wind rushed through it relentlessly. The pain was unbearable. "It's you." I stared at her blankly. "Finally," I whispered. "Why?" Willow gently touched my forehead. Her voice was helpless, almost indulgent. "You're running a fever." She handed me a fever reducer along with a glass of warm water. "Take your medicine first." I clenched my teeth. "I'm asking you why." At last, I exploded. My eyes were bloodshot as I stared at her. "Willow, what exactly is your relationship with Makoto? You two at the masquerade tonight. I saw everything." Willow still looked remarkably calm. She even removed the towel from my forehead, which had long since gone cold, and replaced it with a fresh warm one. Only then did she reply casually. "So what?" As if a simple question could erase the truth I had witnessed. Then she said, "Are you sure your fever isn't making you imagine things? Maybe you mistook someone else for us." Her expression was confused, firm, sincere. For a moment, I actually began to doubt myself. Had I really seen the wrong people? After all, if Makoto could wear a mask nearly identical to mine, someone else could certainly wear one similar to Willow's. But the doubt lasted only a moment, because when Willow lowered her head, I saw it, a bright red mark on her neck, a love bite. Their intimacy had gone far beyond a kiss. Suddenly, I felt ridiculous for even questioning myself, because whether I had mistaken them or not didn't really matter. The fact that Willow didn't love me was already undeniable, a reality that would never change. I let out a self-mocking laugh. Maybe I did see the wrong people. Almost imperceptibly, Willow relaxed. She tightened her grip on my wrist. About the painting. I'm sorry, but he really needs it. Then Willow pulled a blank check from her pocket. She handed me a pen. Consider it purchased. The meaning couldn't have been clearer. I could write any amount I wanted, but all I felt was ridicule. In Willow's eyes, Makoto had stolen my brother's identity, and she thought a little money could make up for it. At that moment, I finally understood something. Perhaps in Willow's eyes, I was also a commodity with a price tag. When she needed me, I had value, and when she didn't, she could simply toss me a humiliating blank check and send me away. Chapter 8. A bitter laugh escaped me. I took the check from her hand, then tore it in half. A flash of shock crossed Willow's eyes. Willow, I don't need your money. After saying that, I pulled the blanket over my head. The rejection couldn't have been more obvious. Willow sat there silently, seemingly waiting for me to say something else, but she waited, and waited. The man who always had 1,000 things to say suddenly fell completely silent. For the first time, Willow felt something strange stir in her chest. Her brows drew together. Tentatively, she asked, "Then, the Liu family shares?" I remained silent. At last, Willow realized that something about George had been different lately. He wasn't talking as much anymore. Why? Was he still angry? Even at this point, Willow still didn't take his talk of divorce seriously. In her mind, George loved her more than his own life. There was no way he could bear to leave her. Still, this tantrum had gone on far too long. A trace of irritation surfaced in Willow's eyes, yet she continued to coax me patiently. "What do you want?" Then, I still didn't answer. I simply lay there with my back to her, pretending to be asleep. Finally, Willow took another step back. "A child. That's fine." Her voice remained calm and steady, though a faint hint of compromise slipped through. She said, "Didn't you always want a child?" The moment those words left her mouth, the anger I had been suppressing finally exploded. I had always wanted a child with Willow. Always. But Willow never did. She said she didn't like children. She said it wasn't the right time. And now, for Makoto's sake, she was suddenly willing to have one. How ridiculous. My entire body trembled with rage. I spun around and sat upright. Then I hurled the divorce papers directly at her face. "Willow, what kind of joke is this?" I stared at her and spoke word by word. "Your compensation is having a child for me. We're getting divorced. Why would I still want you to have my child?" Willow froze. Her gaze landed on the scattered pages lying across the bed. As she bent down to pick them up, her fingers felt strangely cold. Even her breathing seemed slightly uneven. "What is this?" she asked. Willow was about to open the first page. Suddenly, her phone rang. She normally used the default ringtone that came with the phone, but this time, a Marvel movie theme song echoed through the room. The moment I remembered the Marvel merchandise hanging from Makoto's phone, I immediately knew who was calling. Makoto. I didn't know what he said, but Willow's expression changed instantly. The loose pages were quickly gathered and stacked together again. She looked rushed, so rushed that she didn't even spare a second glance at what was written on them. Instead, she turned and headed for the door. Before leaving, she only said one thing: "George, don't use divorce as a way to throw a tantrum." I found it laughable. All she had to do was look. Just one glance. One glance was enough to see that the divorce agreement had already been signed by both of us. Calmly, I folded the papers. Then I locked them away in a drawer. The end of the mandatory waiting period was drawing closer. Soon, very soon, I would finally cut every tie connecting me to Willow. Over the following days, Willow hardly came home. Instead, she began showering me with gifts. Sometimes they were limited edition collectibles worth a fortune. Sometimes they were sports cars I had admired but never bought. She even gifted me 3 luxury mansions in a row. When she drafted an agreement transferring 5% of the Liu family's shares to me, even the gossip accounts online couldn't help commenting. What kind of good deeds did George do in his past life? Willow is absolutely crazy about him. I tore up the share transfer agreement as well. Then I circled a date on my calendar. The day the divorce waiting period would finally end. Chapter 9. I heard that the day my divorce waiting period ended would also be the day of Makoto's engagement. That explained why Willow hadn't been coming home lately. She had been accompanying Makoto everywhere, helping him choose wedding suits, helping him pick engagement rings. It was almost as if the person marrying Makoto was her, not his fiancée. Her. That evening, Willow finally came home. For once, her steps were hurried. Her expression was cold and severe. The woman who was always gentle now looked as sharp as a blade. I was eating dinner when she suddenly grabbed my wrist. Her grip was so tight that pain immediately shot through my arm. I struggled instinctively. "What are you doing? Let go." I tried to shake her off. Then I met her eyes. Willow was furious. "Was it you, George? Ever since Makoto came back, you've been acting strange, causing trouble, and constantly picking fights with him. You're his brother-in-law. Can't you be a little nicer to him?" I looked at her. Then I laughed. This was the longest speech Willow had ever given me. So long that I couldn't even count the number of words. And yet, it was still for Makoto. A shadow passed through her eyes. "You're still laughing. Do you even know that Makoto is being held in detention right now? His health has always been poor. How can he endure something like that?" I answered calmly. "Willow, believe me or don't. I didn't do anything." Willow inhaled sharply. "The charge is theft. If it wasn't you, then who else could it be?" I found the entire situation absurd. "What gives you the right to assume it was me? Because he stole my brother's painting." "Willow, don't forget, I'm the victim here. The victim. And now the victim has to sit here and be falsely accused by you. I thought you were smarter than this." The muscles near Willow's temple twitched. Veins bulged faintly beneath her skin. She took several deep breaths before forcing down her anger. Trying her hardest to remain calm, she said, "Don't get worked up." She grabbed both of my arms. The strength she displayed was astonishing. I couldn't break free at all. Then she spoke slowly and clearly. "George, all you need to do is go to the police station and tell them you gave him the painting." For a moment, I couldn't even believe what I'd heard. Then rage exploded inside me. I drove my elbow hard into her shoulder. Willow sucked in a sharp breath of pain, but she still didn't let go. Instead, she became even more determined. "George, you have to do this." My eyes turned red. I glared at her. "And what if I refuse? What if I'd rather die than go? What if I go kill myself right now?" Willow's brow twitched slightly. A long silence followed. Finally, she took a deep breath. "George, don't push me." Then she sighed. Her voice was calm, certain, almost pitying. "You won't do it. You'd never kill yourself. George, you worked so hard just to marry me. How could you possibly bear to die? So stop making a scene. Be good. Just go to the police station." "All right." I froze. Disbelief filled my eyes. She knew exactly how much I loved her. She knew how much I had sacrificed just to marry her. And yet she used that love as a weapon. A blade aimed straight at my heart, driving it in without hesitation, leaving me bleeding. Suddenly, I became calm. I closed my eyes. Then I smiled softly. "You're right. I would never kill myself. But Willow, not because of you. Because I had already decided to leave you. To start my life over from the beginning." Willow visibly relaxed. "Good. Then let's go now." The strength in her grip loosened. In the very next second, I shoved her away. Looking straight into her eyes, I said word by word, "But I still won't go." The color drained from Willow's face. She nearly lost her balance. Her entire body trembled slightly. This time, she could no longer suppress her anger. "George, you've gone too far." She closed her eyes, took 2 deep breaths, as though trying to force the fury back down. But this time, she failed. Willow clenched both fists tightly. Then she gave the order, "Lock him in the isolation room." Without another glance, she turned and strode toward the door. Her voice was cold. "When he's willing to cooperate, contact me." Chapter 10. Willow's subordinates restrained me immediately. My entire body turned cold. She was going to lock me in an isolation room. She knew better than anyone that the thing I feared most was confinement. When I was a child, my brother and I had once been kidnapped. We were locked inside a dark room for 7 days and 7 nights. Since then, I had suffered from severe claustrophobia. Even a slightly enclosed, dark space was enough to make my entire body tremble. I still remembered telling Willow about it in my brother's studio. Back then, she had held me tightly and said with complete sincerity, "It won't happen again." I had thought those words were a promise for a lifetime. But now, for Makoto's sake, she was using my greatest fear against me. Curled up in the corner of the isolation room, I suffered one panic attack after another. My body shook uncontrollably. The suffocating agony felt like being a fish thrown onto dry land. Every breath was a struggle. Yet even then, I refused to give in. That was my brother. I had to protect the last shred of his dignity. For 3 days and 3 nights, I didn't drink a single drop of water, nor did I eat anything. My stomach was completely empty. The violent cramps twisted through my body. As I hovered on the edge of collapse, Willow's voice suddenly echoed through the room's speaker system. "George, are you still going to keep being stubborn?" My head snapped upward. In an instant, countless tiny red dots stabbed into my vision. Cameras. The room was filled with hidden cameras. Only then did I realize the truth. For the past 3 days, Willow had seen everything. Every bit of my suffering. Every moment of panic. Every ounce of despair. She knew it all, and despite knowing, for Makoto's sake, she had chosen silence. My entire body shook with rage. The room spun violently. Then everything went black. The last thing I heard before losing consciousness was one of Willow's subordinates reporting through the surveillance system. "Miss Liu, we've already pulled some strings and gotten the young master released." When I opened my eyes again, I was in a hospital. A note sat on the bedside table. It was from Willow. "Makoto is fine now." Nothing else. Not a single word about me. I tore the note into pieces. A cold, mocking smile spread across my face. At that moment, I noticed that the live stream of the Liu family's young master's engagement ceremony was dominating the trending charts. Only then did I realize something. Today was Makoto's engagement day, and it was also the day the divorce waiting period between Willow and me officially ended. Without hesitation, I ripped out my 4-needle. I didn't even bother changing out of my hospital gown before heading straight for the Civil Affairs Bureau. An hour later, I walked out with 2 glaring red divorce certificates. My phone rang. It was Willow. "You don't need to come in person." For a moment, I was confused. Then I realized she was talking about the engagement ceremony. I wasn't planning to. Willow interrupted me. "Get ready. There's going to be a live video connection." She paused briefly before adding, "After all, you're still his brother-in-law." A trace of ridicule flashed through my eyes. So that was it. She was worried that my absence would damage the Liu family's public image. Fortunately, I no longer cared. I no longer felt hurt. My heart was calm. So calm that not a ripple remained. In fact, I intended to repay every bit of suffering I'd endured these past few days. When I answered Willow, I even smiled faintly. "Got it." Hearing how cooperative I sounded, Willow seemed relieved. "We'll talk about everything else after the engagement party." Okay. Chapter 11. After hanging up, I didn't return to the hospital. Instead, I took a taxi straight to the airport. I bought a last-minute ticket to Iceland. While sitting in the departure lounge, Willow's video call came through. I answered. At the same time, I opened the live stream platform. My pale, bloodless face instantly appeared before the tens of millions of viewers watching the engagement broadcast. The host smiled warmly. "Mr. Wang, hello. We heard you're currently hospitalized due to health issues. First of all, we wish you a speedy recovery. As the young master's brother-in-law, you've insisted on attending his engagement ceremony despite your condition. So you've chosen to send your blessings through a live connection. We're all very touched. You two must be very close. You may begin your congratulatory message now." I cleared my throat, then adjusted the camera so it was pointed directly at my face. Every tiny expression was displayed clearly. Then, calmly and deliberately, I spoke. "Makoto, marrying a woman you don't love must be painful, right? As your brother-in-law, of course I don't want to see you suffer. So, I've already divorced Willow. I don't want her anymore. I'm giving her to you. I wish you and Willow a lifetime of happiness. May you stay together forever, grow old together, and live happily ever after." For a brief moment, the live stream fell silent. Then the comments exploded. The screen filled with a flood of messages so dense that my face disappeared beneath them. The camera at the engagement venue moved away from the host's stunned expression. Instead, it focused on Willow. Her face had gone completely rigid. Beside her, panic flooded Makoto's features. He grabbed Willow's sleeve immediately. "Sis, George has lost his mind." Before he could finish, Willow's steady voice cut through the chaos. "George, don't make such ridiculous jokes." She stood perfectly still, elegant, graceful, composed. Though there was the faintest tremor in her voice, she continued. "If people take this seriously," I interrupted her, "go enjoy your forbidden romance." Then I ended the call. The screen on my side went black. I logged off completely, leaving Willow standing alone before countless cameras. For the first time, a trace of anger broke through her composure. But Willow had always been good at suppressing her emotions. So when dozens of microphones and cameras were suddenly thrust toward her, she still smiled calmly, still appeared poised, still appeared dignified. "George likes making jokes. Please don't take it seriously." Then everything fell apart. Makoto's fiancé abruptly called off the engagement. Just like that, the ceremony ended. When Makoto rushed into the car afterward, Willow was still calling George. The ringtone had already played 5 times. No answer. George wasn't picking up. Makoto snatched the phone away and hung up. "Sis, why are you still calling him? He completely ruined everything today." His expression twisted with resentment. A trace of malice flashed through his eyes. "Sis, is George jealous of me? He got dumped 99 times. My engagement was going smoothly. That's why he made such a disgusting joke in front of everyone. I can tolerate it, but did he ever think about you? With one sentence, he pushed you and the entire Liu family into the spotlight. He just can't get over the fact that I took his brother's identity. But what choice did I have? I'm only an adopted son. I have no power, no status. I needed a name people would respect. Otherwise I'd spend my whole life being looked down on by my fiancé's family. Enough. The sharp rebuke cut through the car. Every word Makoto intended to say next died in his throat. He stared at Willow in disbelief. Sis, you're yelling at me. Only then did Willow realize she had lost control. She gripped the handle beside her seat tightly. Taking a deep breath, she forced her emotions back down. Yet something felt strange. Very strange. The way Makoto had just rambled on and on. It reminded her of George. George was always like that. Constantly chatting beside her. Sometimes about the weather. Sometimes about food. Sometimes about flowers. Sometimes about absolutely nothing at all. Yet she had never found it annoying. Not once. But for some reason, listening to Makoto talk the same way just now, an unfamiliar irritation rose inside her, as if every additional word filled the space around her a little more, until she felt like she might explode. Chapter 12. Willow finally realized she had lost control of her emotions. She pulled open the car door and stepped out. Then she said, "Driver, take the young master home." Makoto immediately grabbed her arm. "Sis, where are you going? You're not coming back with me." Before Willow could answer, he continued angrily. "Don't tell me you're going to explain things to George. It's just a painting." He practically dragged the entire Liu family down with him over a single painting. "Sis, can you honestly say this isn't partly your fault? You've spoiled him so much that he's become completely unreasonable." He tightened his grip on her hand. "I'm not letting you go. He ruined both our reputations." A wave of irritation surged through Willow. Taking a deep breath, she said, "He's still your brother-in-law. Watch your words." Makoto immediately threw a tantrum. "I'll never acknowledge that clueless idiot as my brother-in-law." The frustration inside Willow grew stronger. She couldn't even tell what she was angry about anymore. George's recklessness, Makoto's stubbornness, the chaos surrounding the entire situation. Perhaps all of it. She only knew one thing. If she stayed any longer, she was going to explode. So she shut the car door. "I'm going to the company to deal with this. You go home first." She tapped on the driver's window. Moments later, the Maybach merged into the flow of traffic. Makoto's complaints gradually faded into the distance, suppressing the trending topics online, deleting the endless speculation, cleaning up the aftermath. By the time everything was handled, it was already past midnight. After finishing the last task, Willow rubbed her temples while listening to her assistant's report. The stock price dropped 3%. It's still within a manageable range. The chairman called. "He wants you back at the family estate tomorrow." Willow nodded. Then she asked, "What else? What else?" The assistant looked confused. After thinking for a moment, he cautiously continued. "The young master called more than 10 times. He wanted to know when you'd be coming home." Willow nodded slightly. "And?" The assistant looked even more bewildered. "And what?" Willow pressed her lips together, then calmly reminded him. "George." Realization immediately dawned on the assistant. "Oh, Mr. Wong. As for him, there hasn't been any activity." The answer surprised Willow. "He didn't contact you?" The assistant shook his head confidently. "No." Willow paused. A flicker of astonishment crossed her eyes. After a brief silence, she said coldly, "I understand. You can go home now." Soon, the enormous office was empty. Only Willow remained. She finished the remaining half cup of coffee. Then she turned on the phone she had kept powered off all evening. A flood of missed calls and messages immediately appeared. Aside from a few inquiries from business associates and friends, nearly every notification came from the same person, Makoto. Even old Master Liu had known she would be busy handling the crisis and would likely turn off her phone. Instead of calling her directly, he had contacted her assistant. Willow scrolled through every missed call, again, and again, and again. She never found George's name. For some reason, that surprised her. Before turning off her phone, she had called George once. Based on George's personality, he always returned her calls, without exception. Not just calls, even text messages. The moment she sent him a message, he would reply almost instantly. Yet when she opened their chat window now, she froze. Their conversation had ended more than 10 days ago. The final message was hers. Received. That was it. The conversation ended with her response. George had not sent a single message afterward. No random stories. No pointless chatter. No endless rambling. Nothing. Willow stared at the screen. A strange feeling slowly surfaced in her chest. George hadn't talked to her in a very long time. That wasn't normal. It absolutely wasn't normal. He always had so much to say. So many thoughts. So many meaningless little observations. How could he go this long without speaking to her? For the first time, Willow felt something unfamiliar stir inside her. Chapter 13. Willow hesitated. Should she send George a message first? She had only typed the first word when the office door slammed open with a bang. Makoto stormed in, his face full of anger. "Sis, why weren't you answering my calls?" Willow sighed. I just finished working. Makoto noticed the chat window still displayed on her phone screen. Immediately, he snatched the phone away again. Sis, at a time like this, you're still thinking about him. That bastard George really knows how to play his games. Do you know what just happened? My fiancé officially called it off. Grandpa was furious. He wants to lock me up until he finds another woman willing to marry me. Makoto's eyes reddened. His voice trembled with anger. I barely managed to escape. Sis, you know how much I hate the isolation room in the old estate. Protect me, okay? He wrapped his arms tightly around Willow's waist, refusing to let go. Then he continued. When you get down to it, George is just throwing a tantrum. He refuses to forgive me. If that's what he wants, I'll apologize. Wouldn't that be enough? Willow froze. A tantrum. Yes, that was all it was. Because he was angry. George wouldn't return her calls. Because he was angry. George wouldn't send her any messages. The tension that had been coiled inside her chest finally loosened. She exhaled slowly, and stopped thinking about every other possibility. After all, George loved her too much. No matter how angry he was, he couldn't stay angry forever. Eventually, he would come back. Eventually, he would be the one to give in. She couldn't keep indulging him endlessly. Otherwise, one day, he'd become completely uncontrollable. Willow exited their chat window, locked her phone, and decided to leave George alone for a while. Sooner or later, he would be the one to surrender. After all, he loved her far more than she loved him. What Willow never expected was that the wait would last an entire week. For 7 straight days, she never returned to the villa. Instead, she stayed in a hotel suite near the company, waiting for George to make the first move. But she couldn't focus. Everything felt dull, meaningless. Every now and then, she would pick up her phone and check it. Still nothing. No calls, no messages, no rambling voice notes, nothing. The irritation inside her slowly accumulated, then gradually transformed into anger. Finally, on the 8th day, she received news about George. The moment she heard it, she left immediately and headed for the Liu family estate. Makoto's frantic voice continued through the phone. Sis, save me. George had people kidnap me today. He said if he can't control me, Grandpa can. He's forcing me to marry a cripple. At that moment, something unexpected surged through Willow's heart. Excitement. For the first time in days, she finally had news about George. When she pushed open the door of the old estate, she even paused briefly to smooth her slightly disheveled hair. Old Master Liu was eating breakfast. After glancing at her once, he lowered his head and took a sip of soy milk. Without looking up, he said, "You're here." Makoto is in the isolation room, but Willow's first question was, "Where's George?" Old Master Liu froze. Then he finally looked at her directly. "You're asking about George?" A trace of anger appeared in Willow's eyes. It's been 7 or 8 days. He should be done making a scene by now. How could he kidnap Makoto just to vent his anger? Tell him to come out. I'll talk to him. Only then did Old Master Liu fully understand what she meant. He sighed heavily. So Makoto told you George kidnapped him. He shook his head. George would never do that. Another sigh escaped him. This one carried unmistakable regret. Willow, the divorce agreement between you and George, didn't you sign it yourself? Why are you acting like you don't know anything about it? Willow froze. Old Master Liu continued. The marriage is over. George stopped caring about those things a long time ago. Then he looked out the window. His voice was calm. He already left. Chapter 14. Boom. It felt as though an explosion had gone off beside Willow's ears. In an instant, every sound around her was swallowed by the deafening roar. She stood frozen in place. The calm expression she had worn for years slowly stiffened, cracked, then shattered completely. Her face darkened. Every trace of warmth vanished from her voice. Grandpa, this joke isn't funny. I know you don't want Makoto staying with the Liu family anymore, but we can find him another suitable wife. There's no need to ruin the rest of his life just because you're angry. Her fists clenched tightly. Veins stood out sharply on the backs of her hands, as if she were desperately suppressing something. Even her teeth trembled slightly as she spoke. Have George come out. I'll talk to him myself. Old Master Liu remained silent for a moment. Then he stood and walked into the living room. Opening a drawer, he removed a document and placed it on the coffee table. It seems you really didn't know. He sighed heavily. When George first brought up divorce, I did everything I could to stop him. After all, both families were very pleased with this marriage, but his attitude was firm, and you'd already signed the divorce papers. So I assumed the two of you had discussed everything privately. I didn't interfere any further. He pushed the document toward her. Take a look. See if it brings back any memories. Willow remained rooted in place. Her gaze locked onto the file. Yet somehow, she couldn't bring herself to walk over and pick it up. For the first time in years, fear crept into her heart. After a long moment, she drew a deep breath. Trying desperately to stay calm, she took a step forward. then stumbled. Her legs nearly gave out beneath her. Grabbing the edge of the coffee table for support, she sank to one knee on the wool carpet. Then she opened the file. At the bottom of the final page were 2 signatures. One belonged to George, the other to her. The moment she saw it, it felt like a needle piercing straight through her heart. That was her signature. Her real signature. When had she signed it? Her memories were wrapped in a layer of fog. No matter how hard she searched, she couldn't remember putting her name on those papers. Instinctively, she began making excuses for herself. The signature was fake. It had to be fake. Maybe George had hired someone to forge it. Yes, that had to be it. She had never signed those papers. Never. There was no way. Divorce? What a ridiculous joke. How could George possibly bear to divorce her? Rip. Without warning, Willow tore the divorce agreement in half. Then she rushed out of the house. She didn't even stop to change her shoes. Still wearing her slippers, she jumped into the driver's seat. "Miss, where are you going?" The driver hurried over, extinguishing his cigarette. His only response was the roar of an engine. Willow slammed her foot onto the accelerator. The car shot forward like an arrow released from a bow. At that moment, Willow Lou was no longer the composed, emotionally stable heir to the Lou family. The thread called reason had snapped completely. Every ounce of rationality was gone. Only one name remained in her mind. George. 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 At last, she arrived at the villa. George had always loved filling the balcony with flowers, especially sunflowers. He often said he wanted to live like a sunflower, always facing the light. But now, every sunflower on the balcony had withered, dead and neglected, as though nobody had cared for them in a very long time. Willow kicked open the front door. "George." Her voice was almost a roar. The servants ran over in panic. Mr. Wong. Mr. Wong isn't here. He hasn't been back for a very long time." Chapter 15. Perhaps because they had never seen Willow this angry before, the servants' eyes immediately turned red after speaking. "Hasn't Mr. Wong been hospitalized this whole time? Why isn't he better yet? Miss, is Mr. Wong all right?" The concern in the servants' eyes was genuine. Willow knew why. George had always treated the staff exceptionally well. He constantly raised their salaries, gave them extra vacation days. Every Christmas, he personally prepared gifts for everyone in the household. He never carried the arrogance that usually came with wealth and status. That was why everyone liked George. He was warm, bright, like the sun itself. Thinking about it carefully, aside from being a little too talkative, he hardly had any flaws at all. And yet, someone like George had been dumped 99 times. A trace of heartache rose inside Willow, followed immediately by an even stronger sense of loss. This villa had been purchased after their marriage. Every detail of the interior had been designed according to George's preferences. The warm-colored walls, the orange sofa, even the paintings hanging on the walls had been painted by George himself. He and his brother had studied art together, and his talent wasn't much worse than his brother's. Yet now, surrounded by all these symbols of warmth, Willow felt only emptiness. A vast, hollow emptiness. She couldn't stay here any longer, and she still couldn't believe George had truly divorced her. The only place she could think of going was the hospital. An hour later, Willow arrived there, still wearing slippers, her hair disheveled, looking utterly exhausted. "Mr. Wong." The nurse looked at her in surprise. "He checked out 8 days ago." Then she seemed to remember something. "Oh, right. Mr. Wong left some personal belongings behind. Your family, aren't you? You can take them." Willow accepted the cardboard box George had left behind. Slowly, she began sorting through its contents. The scarf he had bought for her, a dried flower she had once given him, little keepsakes that had once symbolized two people genuinely trying to build a life together. Now they sat abandoned in a corner, lonely, forgotten. Then her eyes landed on something else, a small red booklet. Its color was painfully vivid. Willow picked it up. After only one glance, she dropped it as though it had burned her. Slap. The booklet hit the floor. It was a divorce certificate. Willow stared at it for a long time. Then she finally gathered enough courage to pick it up again. Her fingertips brushed across the official seal, again and again, as though desperately hoping it would somehow disappear. But it didn't. The certificate was real, painfully real. She and George were truly divorced. Their marriage had lasted less than a year. Less than a year. For Willow, 1 year had never seemed particularly significant. So why did it feel as though an invisible hand had wrapped itself around her heart and squeezed with merciless force? She struggled to breathe. Each breath felt harder than the last. Her legs weakened. Unable to remain standing, she slowly sank onto the cold hospital floor, clutching the divorce certificate, tracing its cover repeatedly, trying desperately to understand. George loved her, didn't he? Hadn't he loved her more than anything? Then why had he suddenly chosen to leave? She sat there for what felt like forever, until the sharp ring of her phone finally pulled her back to reality. The familiar name on the screen made an inexplicable irritation rise inside her. With a sigh, she answered. Makoto's trembling voice immediately came through. Sis, why haven't you come save me yet? I'm scared. If you don't come soon, George is really going to tie me up and force me into that cripple's house. He's trying to make us sleep together before marriage. Suddenly, Willow became calm. Completely calm. The tangled mess of thoughts inside her mind seemed to unravel all at once. The countless loose threads finally connected. One subtle detail after another, linking together, leading toward a truth she had been unwilling to see. Willow took a deep breath, then asked quietly, "Are you absolutely certain it was George who kidnapped you?" Makoto exploded instantly. "Sis, what are you implying? You think I'm framing him? Sis, what kind of spell did George put on you? We grew up together. After all these years, you don't even trust me this much." Chapter 16. By this point, Makoto could no longer hold back. His voice broke as he choked on his tears. Willow remained silent. A dazed look flickered uncontrollably through her eyes. She couldn't stop thinking. They had grown up together. So why had she never realized before that Makoto was such a skilled liar? It suddenly occurred to her that perhaps she had never truly known him at all. Taking a deep breath, Willow chose not to expose him immediately. "I understand. I'll come as soon as I can." She was about to hang up, but Makoto suddenly exploded. "Sis, you're brushing me off again." His voice cracked with desperation. Then, as if a thought had suddenly struck him, he blurted out, "Then let's run away." Willow frowned. "Run away? For real? Let's elope." Makoto's breathing trembled with excitement. "Sis, let's run away together. The whole world is already gossiping about us. Even if it isn't true, everyone believes it is. We might as well take this chance and make our relationship public. Sis, let's leave. I don't care about the Liu family's wealth. I don't care about money. I just want to be with you." Willow fell silent. Years ago, there had indeed been a time when she had considered that possibility, a future where she left everything behind for Makoto, but it had never happened. And now, hearing him bring it up again, the only thing she felt was resistance. Before she could even think, the answer escaped her lips. "No." Makoto froze, then screamed. "Why not? Sis, don't you love me? I love you. You love me. We love each other. Why can't we be together?" Willow remained silent. Her thoughts were a tangled mess. Makoto continued pressing her, completely irrational. "Sis, is it because you can't let go of George? Or have you fallen in love with him?" The question was a random guess. Makoto didn't actually believe Willow could ever fall for George, but what he never expected was that after hearing those words, the woman on the other end of the line suddenly began breathing harder. For the first time in years, the calm ocean inside Willow's heart erupted into a storm. A terrible sense of foreboding surged through Makoto. Quickly, he tried to backtrack. "Sis, I was just joking." But Willow cut him off. Her voice was firm, strangely firm. "Makoto, you're right." For some reason, it was as if a weight had suddenly lifted from her shoulders. Her entire body relaxed. Then she smiled faintly. "Thank you for helping me realize it. I'm going to find George. The plane ticket I bought on impulse ended up bringing me to Italy, the city where my brother and I had once studied art together years ago. Returning to a place where I had lived for only 2 short years felt strangely unreal. The memories were still vivid, and because of them, I missed my brother even more. I returned to my old school. By coincidence, an art exhibition was being held that day, so I pushed open the door and stepped inside. The wind chimes hanging above the entrance rang softly. Looking up, I realized they were shaped like sunflowers. The exhibition featured a single artist. I quite liked the style. Without realizing it, I became completely absorbed. By the time I came back to my senses, I had wandered all the way to the innermost section, a place most visitors never bothered approaching. My gaze landed on the final painting. Something about it felt familiar. The title was Sunward. It depicted a vast field of sunflowers. In the middle of the golden sea stood 2 young boys. The painting radiated warmth and optimism. It was completely different from the artist's other works displayed throughout the exhibition. This piece wasn't originally supposed to be shown. A woman's voice suddenly sounded behind me. Startled, I turned around. She smiled. "I painted it many years ago. It doesn't really match the theme of this exhibition, but one of the staff members brought the wrong painting. We ended up missing a piece, so we used this one as a substitute." I looked back at the painting, then smiled. "Really? I actually think it fits perfectly here. Differences can coexist, can't they?" The woman froze briefly, then nodded with a smile. "Yes, differences can coexist." She extended her hand. "I'm Anna." I shook it. "Nice to meet you. I'm George. I studied art at this school for 2 years, though it's been so long that I've probably forgotten most of what I learned." Anna was mixed race, yet her Chinese was remarkably fluent. Talking with her felt effortless. without the slightest communication barrier. Chapter 17. Before long, I learned that Anna was a professor at the university. The exhibition was actually her private art show. She had simply borrowed the school's venue. Holding the exhibition through the university keeps the costs down, she explained, and students are usually interested in this kind of thing, so it brings in a few more visitors. I teased her. You're a professor. Since when are professors short on money? Besides, judging by what you're wearing and using, you don't exactly look broke. Without any restraint, I looked her up and down. A limited edition designer outfit, a bracelet worth tens of millions, and even the seemingly ordinary silk scarf around her neck was from a top luxury brand. No matter how I looked at it, she didn't seem like someone lacking money. Anna shrugged with a smile. I was kicked out by my family years ago. They said I was good for nothing. I've always had a weakness for gossip. The moment I heard that, I grabbed her by the arm and started pulling her toward the exit. We're practically fellow countrymen, aren't we? How about I treat you to dinner, and you tell me the whole story of how you got kicked out? Dragged along by me, Anna stumbled a few steps before breaking into laughter. Mr. Wang, she said, are you always this friendly with people you just met? Only then did I realize my incurable chatterbox tendencies had flared up again. Looks like I'd managed to annoy someone once more. I immediately stopped, feeling a little awkward. Sorry, I got carried away. It's fine, Anna shrugged. I talk a lot too. With a smile, she took the lead and headed outside. As it happens, I know a fantastic Chinese restaurant near campus. Want to give it a try? I stared at her retreating figure without moving. My treat. Once you pass this village, there won't be this in anymore. Anna glanced back and winked at me. There wasn't the slightest hint of tolerance, patience, or reluctant accommodation in her expression. And suddenly, I smiled. I think people have a habit of stumbling for the same kindness over and over again. But when someone treats you with this kind of warmth, it's impossible not to fall for it. I let out a sigh, then curved my lips into a grin and quickly caught up to her. Professor Anna, your Chinese is pretty impressive. I can't believe you even know slang like that. Chapter 18. I quickly became close friends with Anna. With her help, I found a job as a teaching assistant at the university and rented a 2-bedroom apartment nearby. On moving day, Anna came over from the hotel to help. While unpacking, she suddenly noticed a painting inside one of my boxes and stared at it for a long time. I explained, that's a painting by my brother. He passed away, so I've kept it with me ever since. Passed away? Anna's face instantly turned pale. She shot to her feet. How did he pass away? I froze. You knew my brother? After a brief silence, Anna nodded. Not exactly knew him. We crossed paths a few times. I knew his name, but he never knew mine. Realization dawned on me. Wait, don't tell me you were one of his admirers. Back when he studied here, girls all over campus chased after him. Younger ones, older ones, he was popular with practically everyone. But my brother only cared about painting. Romance was the last thing on his mind. After he returned home, his health started failing. He didn't hold on for very long after that. How did you meet him? Don't tell me you've secretly liked him all these years. I kept pressing until a helpless expression appeared on Anna's face. You're overthinking it. I didn't like him. For some reason. Hearing that made me feel relieved. I didn't understand why, nor did I dare think too deeply about it. Instead, I continued teasing her. Impossible. My brother was ridiculously popular. Anna sighed. He really was exceptional. She paused, but at the time, my eyes were focused on someone else. Before she could finish, I suddenly cried out. A sharp blade had pierced my finger. Blood immediately began pouring from the wound, making the injury look alarming. Anna grabbed my wrist at once. How are you this careless? I'm taking you to the hospital. I tried to refuse, but she had already dragged me out the door. She drove at a frightening speed while I sat in the passenger seat, helplessly joking. I'm fine. Seriously, at this rate, the wound will heal before we even get there. In truth, the cut wasn't small at all. The blade was a utility knife I normally used for sharpening pencils. It was extremely sharp and rusty. The moment the doctor saw it, he immediately ordered a tetanus shot. A shot. I stared at him in horror. Do I really need one? Can't we skip it? Then I turned to Anna with a guilty expression. See, I told you it wasn't that serious. We didn't need to come to the hospital. But no, you insisted. Now I have to get a shot. Seeing my pale face, Anna finally understood. George, don't tell me a grown man is afraid of needles. I straightened my neck stubbornly. Who's afraid of needles? Not me. I just think this is a minor injury. That's all. The doctor says otherwise. Holding my arm in place, Anna couldn't help smiling. Mr. Wang, exactly how old are you? I glared at her, yet somehow couldn't come up with a single comeback. A few minutes later, I found myself staring at the syringe in the nurse's hand. My vision blurred. My breathing quickened. Even my lips had turned ghostly white. Realizing that I was genuinely terrified, Anna stopped teasing me. She gently held my arm and said, "If it hurts, bite me." I didn't hesitate. The moment the cold needle touched my skin, I sank my teeth into her arm as hard as I could. The metallic taste of blood quickly filled my mouth. My eyes squeezed shut, and strangely enough, it didn't seem nearly as frightening anymore. Anna sucked in a sharp breath, but she didn't pull away even once. When the shot was over, I finally opened my eyes and saw the bite mark on her arm. Blood was already seeping through the imprint of my teeth. The sight was shocking. "Does it hurt?" I asked. "Shouldn't we bandage that?" Anna shook her head. "It's fine. It's just a bite. I can handle it." She took me to collect my medication. The whole way there, my mind was elsewhere. Only when we stopped at the pharmacy window did I finally speak. "I'm sorry." I hugged my own arm. Shoulders slumped. "You shouldn't have had to suffer for something that happened to me. I dragged you into this." Anna smiled and was about to comfort me. Then a long, pale hand suddenly appeared and snatched the payment receipt from my grasp. The next second, a familiar fragrance drifted into the air. It was the scent I knew all too well. It felt as though it could seep into my skin, my blood, my very bones, like a poison that refused to leave me alone. My heart sank. Slowly, I turned around, and, just as expected, my eyes met Willow's. Chapter 19. Why was she here? I never expected to see Willow again. As far as I was concerned, everything I had done before leaving had already stripped away the last veil between her and Makoto. I'd torn down the final barrier that neither of them had been willing to acknowledge. After seeing the divorce certificate, she should have married Makoto soon afterward. She shouldn't have been here. She couldn't have been here. And yet, not only had Willow appeared, she had also seized my hand in a possessive grip. She had rarely been this physically close to me before. Looking at Anna with a cold, challenging gaze, she spoke slowly and clearly. "I'll take care of George. There's no need for you to trouble yourself." A trace of mockery flashed across Anna's eyes. "Willow, I guessed right, didn't I?" I was surprised. I'd never mentioned Willow's name to Anna. How did she know who she was? Before I could ask, the two women were already facing off. Willow held tightly onto me, giving Anna no chance to pull me away. Her voice remained calm. "And your point is?" Anna replied. "Aren't you two already divorced? I'm George's friend. Under the circumstances, I'm clearly the more suitable person to look after him." Then she added with a faint smile. "And obviously, he trusts me more, trusts you more." Willow let out a cold laugh. Impossible. I seriously wondered if I'd gotten out of bed wrong this morning. Was this really Willow? Since when did she speak so sharply? Since when did she sound angry? She had always been emotionally composed. The only person capable of making her lose control was Makoto. How could she be acting like this toward me? What exactly had happened? I couldn't figure it out. Eventually, I stopped trying. I pushed Willow's hand away in a clear gesture of rejection. "What are you doing here?" I asked. Willow lowered her eyes, her lashes casting shadows across her face. "What do you think?" Her voice softened. "I came to take you home." I couldn't help letting out a cold laugh. "Home? What home? We're divorced." "Willow, that place belongs to you and Makoto now." Willow frowned. "George, stop being stubborn. What you're imagining isn't true. Makoto and I have always been close." "Yes, but we grew up together. He's like family. He's my brother. It's perfectly normal for us to be close." I found it laughable. Even now, Willow still thought I was just being stubborn. My divorce was me being stubborn. My leaving was me being stubborn. Even wishing her and Makoto happiness was me being stubborn. Was she really that certain? Certain that I loved her so much I could never leave her? I couldn't help interrupting her. 36 words. What? Confusion flashed across Willow's eyes. I looked at her and said, "Willow, I've been counting every word you've said to me since you arrived. The speech you just gave, it was 36 words. I let out a quiet sigh. Do you know something? After we got together, whenever you spoke to me, a sentence from you never exceeded 10 words. But the day Makoto came back, when you went to the police station to bail him out, I stared directly into her eyes. Every single sentence you said to him was longer than 10 words. Chapter 20. Willow, I used to think that this was simply who you were. Quiet, reserved, not someone who talked much. But it wasn't until that moment that I realized you're human too. You have emotions, desires, highs and lows just like everyone else. And when your emotions do fluctuate, they're even stronger than most people's." A bitter smile tugged at my lips. Impossible to hide the self-mockery in it. "The only unfortunate thing is that the person who makes you feel that way isn't me." Willow froze. The color drained from her face. Her expression gradually turned pained, her brows drawing tighter and tighter together. Yet she still refused to let go of my arm, until I said, word by word, "Willow, I know you married me because of Makoto. It's okay, I don't mind. After all, our relationship is already over. Everything is in the past now." I looked straight at her. "So I'm asking you for one thing. If it's over, then let it be over completely. Please stop interfering with my life. Can you do that?" I pushed Willow away. This time, her hand finally slipped from mine, and it felt as if something inside her had slipped away as well, leaving behind a vast emptiness. He knows. When did he find out? Willow's thoughts became a tangled mess. She didn't even notice when George left. By the time she came back to her senses, the bustling hospital lobby had long since swallowed him whole. She was standing there alone, still clutching the payment receipt. George knew the real reason she had married him. The realization dragged Willow into a dark abyss from which she could hardly escape. She didn't leave. More than anything, she needed answers. When had George learned the truth? How had he learned it? And how had he managed to obtain a divorce agreement bearing her signature and complete the entire divorce process without her involvement? By the time her assistant sent over the investigation materials, a file totaling more than 10 gigabytes, the boarding time for her and George's return flight was approaching. Her assistant called. "Boss, haven't you and Mr. Wong left for the airport yet?" Even the assistant had never considered the possibility that George wouldn't return with her, just like Willow herself. As if all she had needed to do was make this trip. As if all she had needed to do was coax him a little, and George would naturally return home with her, remarry her, and everything would go back to normal. Because from the very beginning, Willow had never taken this divorce seriously. She thought he was simply upset. She thought he was throwing a tantrum. She thought he needed her to comfort him. Once she did, everything would be fine. That was why she had purchased their return tickets together without hesitation. But she had never imagined she would fail. A powerless smile tugged at the corner of Willow's lips. Her pale lips parted slightly. "Cancel the tickets." The assistant sounded confused. "Yours, boss. Is there a business opportunity there that needs developing? Should I prepare any materials? Look at that." Even now, the assistant assumed Willow was staying for work. Not that George wasn't coming back. No one believed George would stay. Even Willow herself had once believed the same thing. So when the words finally left her mouth, her voice trembled. Both of them. Willow sounded exhausted. "Mr. Wong isn't coming back for now." The assistant was so shocked that she nearly stopped breathing. How is that possible? Willow didn't want to hear another word. She hung up. Looking up, she could see the street across from the hotel through the enormous floor-to-ceiling windows of the presidential suite. George was moving. He had bought a great deal of furniture. Large pieces, small pieces, expensive items, practical budget-friendly ones. Everything about it suggested he intended to stay here for a very long time. Sweat soaked his clothes from the hard work. His hands were full, so Anna simply lifted the iced coffee she had bought and pressed the straw to his lips. He took a sip. The two exchanged a smile. The sight was unbearable. So unbearable that Willow's eyes instantly turned red. Unable to hold herself back, she slammed her fist against the glass. A sharp numbness spread through the back of her hand. And so she watched. For more than half an hour, she watched until Anna and George entered the apartment building together. Only then did Willow sit down and open the files her assistant had sent. Chapter 21. The file was a full 10 gigabytes. Willow went through it piece by piece, page by page, video by video. She didn't stop until dawn. Only then did she finally finish. There was far more inside than she had ever imagined. It revealed that during those years abroad, Makoto had been completely uninterested in studying. His private life had been chaotic. He had dated countless girlfriends. He was nothing like the men who claimed he had loved Willow unwaveringly all those years. It revealed that Makoto's so-called depression had been a lie from beginning to end. Rather than being a victim of depression, he had been the one bullying other students until they fell into it. It revealed that Makoto's stories about George reporting him to old Master Lu, about the family arranging the marriage because he needed to learn an art, about George calling the police and accusing him of theft, every single one of them was a lie. From beginning to end, George had done nothing. He had simply stood alone at the edge of everything, silently watching her shower Makoto with affection. He had done nothing, yet he had carried all the blame. Through countless surveillance recordings, Willow saw George's lonely, fragile figure again and again. When she was tending to Makoto's injured ankle, George stood quietly nearby, his own calf torn open and covered in blood. When she used him as a tool and kissed him in order to solve one of Makoto's problems, there had been no hope in his eyes, only shock, only heartbreak. When she and Makoto hid behind masks, cast aside their identities, forgot everything, and kissed passionately in the middle of a crowd, George had stood alone in a dark corner not far away, silently watching, silently waiting. When she believed Makoto's accusations and locked George inside the detention room, he had curled up alone in the corner, broken, desperate, devastated. One memory after another, one piece of evidence after another, like the dull edge of a blade, like a boomerang finally returning to its owner. They plunged mercilessly into Willow's heart, carving through it again and again. Not enough to kill her, only enough to make her suffer. Willow hurt so badly that even breathing became difficult. Her entire body trembled. Staggering to her feet, she walked toward the floor-to-ceiling window. She looked across the street. The apartment was still dark and silent. There was no movement. Anna hadn't come out. The moment that realization hit her, something inside Willow snapped. She rushed out the door like a madwoman and ran toward the apartment building. Chapter 22. To thank Anna for helping me move, I decided to cook her a meal myself. After all, I was a young master of the Wong family, born with a silver spoon in my mouth. Before marrying Willow, I actually didn't know how to cook at all. It wasn't until we started dating and I discovered that she suffered from chronic stomach problems. She had even been hospitalized several times because of stomach bleeding that I made up my mind to learn. I hired a state banquet chef and spent an entire month forcing myself to practice. Only then did my cooking become presentable. From that day on, I took charge of Willow's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. No matter how busy she was, I always reminded her to eat. As a result, her stomach condition hadn't flared up in a very long time. It wasn't until I finished the last dish that I suddenly remembered all of that, and only then did I realize something else. I hadn't cooked in so long, yet it didn't feel strange at all, nor had I thought about Willow once. It was as though preparing 3 meals a day for her belonged to a previous lifetime. I didn't dwell on it. My heart remained completely calm. The last dish is done. I carried a plate of spicy chicken to the table. Across from me, Anna was practically drooling. Her eyes widened. "You can cook." Unable to wait any longer, she grabbed her chopsticks and took a bite. Before she could comment on how good it tasted, I spoke with a half smile. "Yeah, learned it later. When we knew each other back then, I couldn't cook at all." Anna instinctively replied. "Back then? Forget cooking. You couldn't even tell cilantro and celery apart." She stopped abruptly, the chopsticks froze in her hand. Then she slowly set them down. "When did you figure it out?" I sighed. "Anna, you've left way too many clues. If you were going to keep it a secret, you should have hidden it better. Practically every sentence you've said has been exposing the fact that we knew each other before." "For some reason," Anna smiled. "What if I wanted you to figure it out?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" Anna shrugged. "George, you've always thought I had a crush on your brother. But the truth is, you were the only person I paid attention to. Your brother and I only crossed paths a few times. He covered a few tutoring sessions for me and taught me some painting." She laughed. "In my eyes, he was more like a strict teacher than anything else. Why would I like him?" Then she looked at me. "But you were different. Back then, you were like a little sparrow. You never stopped chattering in my ear. Whenever I got tired from painting, listening to you talk was actually relaxing." Her smile deepened. "You'd tell me whose family had lost something, whose husband got caught cheating, which wife caught her husband cheating and accidentally discovered her best friend was involved. All of it was incredibly entertaining." At that moment, fireworks suddenly burst into the night sky behind her. Brilliant colors exploded across the darkness. Their glow illuminated her sparkling eyes, and something seemed to explode inside my chest as well. Only then did I finally remember who she was. What came back to me was a sunny afternoon. The sunflowers had been in full bloom. My brother had taken me to see them, and Anna had shamelessly tagged along behind us. Thinking about it now, the painting I'd seen at the exhibition, the 2 figures in it had been my brother and me. But all this time, I'd assumed Anna had painted it because of him. It had never occurred to me that someone could actually like a chatterbox like me. I pressed my lips together. My fingers unconsciously tightened around the hem of my shirt. I was so nervous that even my breathing became uneven. "Anna, bang, bang, bang." A sudden knock at the door cut me off. Startled, I jumped to my feet. In my panic, I accidentally knocked over a bowl of hot soup. The scalding liquid splashed across the back of my hand. A fresh injury on top of the old one. The sight looked alarming. Anna hurried off to grab the first aid kit. Meanwhile, I went to answer the door. The motion sensor light outside flickered on the moment I opened it. Its glow illuminated Willow's deep, quiet eyes. She looked straight at me. Then, slowly and clearly, she said, "George, I was wrong." Her voice carried a sincerity I had never heard before. "I admit it. When I married you, it was because of Makoto. But I'm here to take you home now because of no one else. Only because you're George. Only because you're you." Her voice turned hoarse. Word by word, she said, "Because I fell in love with you a long time ago." Chapter 23. There was a time when I had begged Willow countless times for those words. I would ask over and over again, "Willow, do you like me?" I never even dared ask whether she loved me. The word felt too heavy, too dangerous, as though neither of us could bear the answer. But Willow had never responded. She always brushed the question aside or gave a vague reply. I had imagined it countless times. If Willow ever said those words, how would she say them? I pictured the ocean, fireworks, the peak of a snow-covered mountain, every romantic setting I could think of. Yet I had never imagined it would happen after our divorce. At the doorway of a cramped apartment in a foreign country, Willow had finally told me she loved me, but I didn't need it anymore. Not a single ripple stirred in my heart. All I felt was annoyance. Why was she here again? I reached for the door, intending to close it, but Willow shoved her hand into the gap and blocked it. Her persistence was unlike anything I had ever seen from her. George, give me an answer, I sighed. Willow, those words don't mean anything anymore. We're over. Willow's breathing grew uneven. Panic flashed across her face. She looked completely lost. But I need another chance. George, for all these years, I mistook my affection and protectiveness toward my brother for love. I never understood what it meant to truly love someone. I never understood what it felt like to miss someone day and night. Her voice trembled. You have to give me a chance to learn. A chance to make mistakes. Don't I deserve that? I said nothing. I simply looked at her, calmly, indifferently. The last thread of reason in Willow's mind finally snapped. Because at that moment, she realized something. If she failed today, she might lose George forever. And she couldn't bear that. So she pushed her way inside. She grabbed my hand, so tightly that even when I hissed in pain, she refused to let go. Willow had always prided herself on being emotionally composed. But now she was flustered and frantic, speaking so quickly that her words barely made sense. George, come back with me. We'll get married again. From now on, whatever you want, I'll give it to you. I'll never contact Makoto again. Or do you want shares? The Liu family shares. We can sign an agreement. I'll give you 10%. No, 20%. The more she spoke, the more agitated she became. Her cheeks flushed red. Finally, Anna couldn't take it anymore. Still holding the antiseptic and bandages, she strode forward and slapped Willow across the face. Smack. Willow stumbled backward against the door. Anger instantly surged through her. She raised her head, ready to lash out, only to see Anna lifting my hand. The back of it was covered in angry red burns and swollen blisters. The sight was shocking. Anna's voice was icy. Willow, this is what you call love. You came in here and never once paid attention to George. All you've done is talk about what you want. She looked at Willow with open disdain. If this is your version of love, then I completely understand why George doesn't want it. Then she said, word by word, if you can't love someone the way you'd care for yourself, don't talk about love at all. Boom. It felt as though something exploded beside Willow's ear. The impact shattered her, left her numb, left her unable to move. She stood there frozen, watching Anna carefully tend to the burn on my hand, watching her clean the wound with patient, gentle movements, watching me smile lightly and tell her it was fine. Their natural intimacy pierced Willow's heart more deeply than any knife. The shame, the regret, they surged through her like a tidal wave. And for the first time, Willow lost the courage to stay. At last, she turned around, opened the door, and fled in utter defeat. Chapter 24. I thought I would never see Willow again. After all, that day, I had completely crushed her pride and ground it into the dirt. Yet 3 days later, our paths crossed once more. At the time, I was busy preparing a group exhibition for graduating students. After receiving the school's approval, I included several of my brother's unpublished paintings among the exhibits. Less than an hour after the exhibition opened, someone contacted me about purchasing one of them. I politely declined. The men immediately became agitated. Sir, money isn't an issue, as long as you're willing to sell it. Name your price. I smiled helplessly. It's one of my brother's final works. I'm sorry, but it's not for sale. The man's expression grew even more anxious. Mr. Wong, I'll be honest with you. I'm not the one who wants to buy it. Someone hired me. They promised me $10,000 if I could purchase this painting. As he spoke, he reached for my arm. His emotions were becoming increasingly unstable. Startled, I quickly stepped backward, but my back hit a cold wall. There was nowhere left to retreat. Anna rushed over. Who sent you? The man's face turned pale. I promised I wouldn't say. Tell the truth. Anna twisted his arm sharply behind his back. Her voice was cold. Is this person really trying to buy a painting? Or are they here to cause trouble? If you don't talk, we're calling the police. It's me. A familiar voice drifted through the crowd. Everyone turned. A figure emerged from the sea of people and walked toward us. She was wearing a long black trench coat that almost completely concealed her figure. A baseball cap was pulled low over her head. A mask covered the lower half of her face. Dark sunglasses hid her eyes. Only when she approached did she remove the mask. Willow let out a soft sigh. George, I just wanted your life here to be a little easier. I stared at her for a moment, then I laughed. I'm doing just fine, so there's no need for Miss Liu to worry about me. Only then did something occur to me. That black trench coat looked familiar. Very familiar. I had seen it repeatedly over the past few days. Sometimes I would be shopping. A store packed with customers one moment would suddenly become empty the next. Sometimes I would be buying desserts. The customer before me would be told that everything was sold out. Yet the moment I turned to leave, the employee would suddenly inform me that an order had been cancelled and ask whether I still wanted it. Things like that had happened countless times recently. So many times that I had started to believe my luck had finally changed. Only now did I understand. It wasn't luck. It was Willow Lou. I let out a self-mocking laugh. Miss Lou, please stop following me. It doesn't matter what you say or what you do. Our divorce is already a fact. Willow simply smiled at me. She said nothing. And then she stayed. She continued wandering through the exhibition. But this time, she didn't put the mask back on. She didn't wear the sunglasses. She didn't try to hide her presence anymore. Chapter 25. That afternoon, the number of visitors suddenly surged. I was so busy that my feet barely touched the ground. After finally finding a moment to grab a drink of water, a loud argument erupted nearby. Someone had vandalized the paintings. I rushed over. Several canvases had been torn to shreds and scattered across the floor, and every single one of them belonged to my brother. The moment I saw them, I lost all rationality. I lunged forward and pinned the hysterical woman to the ground. Call the police. Someone call the police. To my surprise, the woman laughed when she saw me. You must be the person in charge of this exhibition. Then you'd better give me an explanation today. She pointed at the ruined paintings. These works are plagiarized. They're all stolen from Master Luis. Master Luis never painted any of these pieces. Yet you've copied his style and even forged his signature seal in the corner. If you don't give me an explanation today, I'll expose all of this online. Suddenly, I calmed down. Grabbing her arm, I stared directly into her eyes. Makoto sent you, didn't he? The woman's gaze flickered. I don't know what you're talking about. Makoto? Who's Makoto? She quickly pulled out her phone and opened the social media account Makoto had been using to impersonate Luis. Then she displayed the paintings one by one for everyone to see. Look, everyone. These are Master Luis's works. See the seal in the lower right corner? That's his signature mark. She pointed at me. He's obviously using Luis's reputation to attract attention to his exhibition. I let out a cold laugh. How do you know Luis never painted these works? I took a step forward. Does every painting an artist creates have to be shown to the entire world? Isn't it possible for an artist to keep some private works? The woman instantly fell silent. Her face turned pale. I continued advancing. But you, today, you destroyed several paintings that supposedly belonged to Luis. If you're really such a devoted fan, then you should know their market value. I smiled coldly. So tell me, how exactly do you plan on paying for them? The woman's legs gave out. She collapsed onto the floor. The color drained completely from her face. I didn't. Someone told me. Seeing that she was about to reveal the truth, the crowd suddenly parted. A narrow path opened through the sea of people. At the end of it, Makoto slowly walked forward. His expression was icy. Mr. Wong, I've never painted any of these works. He stopped and looked directly at me. I am Luis, so I think my words should carry some weight. Someone immediately pulled up footage from the masked gala a few days earlier. Ever since that event, Makoto had been publicly branded as Luis. He had been running Luis's fake social media account, making a fortune from it. He even posted selfies there from time to time. As far as the public was concerned, Luis was Makoto. People compared his selfies with the gala footage, and just like that, public opinion swung entirely to his side. It's really plagiarism. The real artist himself just called him out. Someone eager for drama started a live stream. The viewer count skyrocketed into the millions. Comments flooded the screen. Isn't this the Wong family heir who got dumped 99 times? Wasn't he the one who accused Willow and Master Luis of having an affair? Good thing we weren't fooled. Looks like he's bitter because he got rejected. Now he's even copying Master Luis's work. George, apologize. Get on your knees and apologize. The online comments were vicious. The crowd at the exhibition was even worse. Everyone was shouting, demanding justice for Makoto. Someone even charged forward and tried to force my head down. I couldn't dodge in time. Objects flew through the air. Something struck my forehead. Warm blood instantly streamed down my face. Calm down, everyone. Calm down. Anna threw herself in front of me, but she was only one person. Against the crowd, she was hopelessly outnumbered. Soon, both of us were surrounded, trapped, unable to break free. Then, bang. A deafening crash echoed through the hall. I was forced to the ground. My cheek scraped across the cold marble floor. Someone grabbed the back of my head. They were about to force me to kneel, force me to kowtow, and at that moment, a furious roar exploded through the crowd. Everybody stop. Chapter 26. Everyone turned toward the black-clad figure standing at the end of the hallway. At the same moment, the live stream comments that had been flying across the screen suddenly froze. Then someone posted, "Go check it out. Lu Group's official account just released a statement." Holy crap, am I seeing this right? The rumors about Willow and Makoto's twisted, taboo relationship were actually true, and Willow personally admitted it. Why would she do that? Guys, that's not even the biggest part. Keep reading to the end. Willow just said Makoto's Luis identity is fake. Meanwhile, inside the exhibition hall, Willow strode forward with unwavering determination. Step by step, she walked toward me. Finally, She stopped in front of me. This time, she wasn't looking down at me from above. Instead, she lowered herself onto one knee. Gently, she helped me to my feet. Then she took out a clean handkerchief and carefully wiped the blood from my forehead. "I'm sorry, George." Her voice was barely above a whisper, yet the words struck my heart with the weight of 1,000 pounds. She lowered her eyes. "I'll give you and your brother the justice and innocence you deserve. It was me. I was wrong." After helping me up, Willow turned toward the countless livestream cameras. Her voice was calm, steady, and powerful. The real Luis was the eldest son of the Wang family, George Wang's brother. For all this time, Makoto has been impersonating him, and the reason he was able to succeed, Willow paused, was because I helped him. I knew George possessed Luis's original paintings, so I secretly took them and used them to establish Makoto's identity as Luis. Willow closed her eyes. She took a deep breath, then revealed the entire truth, without hiding anything. "Regarding all of this, I would like to offer my sincerest apology to Mr. George Wang." She bent deeply at the waist, a formal bow. When she straightened again, her dark eyes met mine. For a brief moment, a strange feeling washed over me. This time, Willow had truly seen me, for the first time, but I no longer wanted to be seen by her. I pressed my lips together and instinctively took a step backward. That single movement struck Willow harder than any words could. Her gaze trembled. The light in her eyes crumbled away completely. Like a dying flame, I answered lightly, "It doesn't matter anymore." Then after a pause, I added, "But thank you. Thank you for clearing my brother's name." I turned to leave, but before I could take more than a step, a blood-curdling scream ripped through the hall. The sound pierced everyone's ears. Makoto stood there clutching a sharp dagger. His eyes were bloodshot, his face twisted with madness. As he charged toward me, he roared, "George, you ruined me. If I'm going down." His grip tightened around the knife. "Then I'm taking someone with me." Chapter 27. I was surrounded by people. There was no way for me to completely dodge the knife. My face turned deathly pale, frozen in place. I could only squeeze my eyes shut and wait for the pain to come. Time seemed to slow to a crawl. Everything around me fell silent. So silent that I could hear every breath I took. Yet the agony I expected never arrived. I didn't know how long I stood there, until frantic screams suddenly erupted around me. "Call an ambulance. Move back. Give her room to breathe. George, George, are you okay?" A familiar pair of arms suddenly wrapped around me. I opened my eyes in confusion and instinctively touched my face. Only when the metallic scent of blood filled my nose did I realize that someone had indeed been stabbed. It just wasn't me. Then a hand grabbed the leg of my pants. I lowered my head. Willow was lying at my feet. Blood poured relentlessly from a wound in her abdomen. Despite the pain, she stared at me with all her remaining strength. Word by word, she asked, "Are you okay?" Willow had taken the knife for me. For a moment, I couldn't describe what I was feeling. All I knew was that the things I had once obsessed over, the things that had tormented me for years, seemed to disappear with that single stab, like smoke scattered by the wind. I think that, this time, Willow truly didn't owe me anything anymore. I remained strangely calm. Together with Anna, I helped Willow to her feet. Together, we got her into the ambulance. When a nurse asked who the family member was, I even stepped forward on my own. "I'm her ex-husband. Does that count?" The nurse immediately pulled me into the ambulance. Just before the doors closed, I grabbed Anna's hand. "Take a taxi and come after us." Anna nodded quickly. For the 2 hours Willow was in surgery, my phone never stopped ringing. My parents, old Master Lu, mutual friends, one after another. I assured every single person that I would do everything possible to save Willow. Everyone cared about Willow, and everyone cared about the same thing. When Willow recovered, when would we remarry? No one seemed to believe there was any other outcome. Before hanging up, my mother asked softly, "George, are you okay? Do you need me to come be with you?" I shook my head gently. "I'm okay, Mom." "Good." My mother smiled. "You know what I've always said. As long as you're happy, I'll support whatever choice you make. When you wanted to divorce Willow, I supported you. And if you decide to remarry her now, I'll support that too." Only then did I realize something. In everyone's eyes, I had loved Willow desperately. Even my own mother believed that after Willow nearly sacrificed her life for me, all her past mistakes had become insignificant. After all, she had risked her life, but was that really what I wanted? Did I still love Willow? 2 hours later, the surgery ended successfully. Willow was transferred to a regular hospital room. The doctor said she would wake up within 24 hours, which meant I had 24 hours left to answer the question, should I remarry Willow? The whole world seemed to be waiting for my decision. Only Anna was different. When she hurried over to the hospital, she brought me a bouquet of sunflowers. I saw them on the way here and thought they were beautiful. She smiled. "Don't you like sunflowers?" It wasn't any trouble. Took me 2 minutes to buy them. The moment she handed me the bouquet, everything became clear. I didn't need 24 hours. I only needed this second. This single second. The second Anna handed me those sunflowers. Without the slightest hesitation, I turned and walked toward the exit. Let's go. I smiled at her. First we'll hire a caregiver to look after Willow. Then we'll go try that beef noodle place you were talking about. What do you think? Anna didn't ask why. She didn't need to. She simply nodded. Okay. Chapter 28. Half a month later, Willow had fully recovered from her injuries and was discharged from the hospital. Makoto's trial had also come to an end. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison for intentional assault. The best years of his youth would be spent behind bars. His future was gone. After hanging up the phone, the assistant standing beside her asked softly, "Miss Liu." Mr. Liu said, "The group has been in complete chaos ever since your confession that day. They urgently need you back to take charge, so you have to board the flight tonight." Willow said nothing. The assistant asked again, "Should we cancel Mr. Wang's ticket?" Willow rubbed her aching temples and instructed the driver, "Take me to his school." The assistant grew anxious. "Miss Liu, I don't know how to explain that to Mr. Liu." Willow's tone left no room for argument. "I'll get on the plane. For now, take me to the school." Half an hour later, Willow arrived at George's school, and just like that, she saw him. He was holding a bouquet of sunflowers, the corners of his eyes crinkling with a smile. The sunflowers were from Anna. Willow knew that during this time, Anna had been giving him sunflowers every single day, but today's bouquet seemed different, because George immediately handed Anna a bouquet of red roses. Then he lowered his head and kissed her forehead. A heart-wrenching pain tore through Willow's chest. Almost as if punishing herself, she kept watching until the two of them completely disappeared from sight. Only then did she realize her cheeks were wet. Willow wiped away her tears in confusion. Then she let out a self-mocking laugh and said, "Let's go to the airport." She had thought she wouldn't cry, but it turned out that before, she simply had never lost George.